Hi everyone, thanks for listening to my presentation today on differentiated instruction. What we're going to be looking at today is what differentiated instruction is. Then we're going to be looking at ways you can use differentiated instruction in your classroom, and then also kind of the product and the outcome of what we should get when using differentiated instruction. Alright, so what is differentiated instruction? Differentiated instruction is a style of teaching that aims to involve students more. What it involves basically is a teacher knowing their students and adjusting their teaching style to meet those students' needs. For example, if you have a student or a group of students that's kind of falling behind, you would want to adjust their teaching accordingly. So that you're either spending more time with them and giving them different assignments from the other students. Likewise, if you have a student or group of students that's excelling, that already knows most of what you're teaching, then you would want to adjust that to give them more difficult tasks and assignments. So teachers must change their teaching style to involve all students fully. And that is just kind of changing what the typical norm is today of the lecture with a lesson following. If we use differentiated instruction, then you would change that so it's not just a whole class lecture. You might have a whole class lecture, but then you would have extra things as well catered to individual students to help them understand what they learned in the lecture. And you may have to change what products you're using. Different students might use different textbooks, different supplemental materials, just depending on the student. Alright, so this next section that we're going to look at is how teachers can differentiate instruction in their classrooms. So one very important aspect of differentiated instruction is the assessment. Teachers must assess students on an individual level to find out their readiness, what type of learning method they need, like a reading, or whether they're more of a visual person or a listening type of person. So many educators assess their students at the beginning of the year to see what their competency level is. But one thing that's different about differentiated instruction is that you will assess your students at the beginning of the year and then keep on assessing them with every new assignment, everything that you do, and then also assess them at the end of the year to see if the instruction has helped them. So using this method of assessment can catch students who might be failing to understand before it's too late. So for example, with the classical traditional method of teaching, if you just assess at the beginning of the year and then just continue to teach all the students in the same manner, then if a student's falling behind, you wouldn't necessarily know because you're not doing active assessments on those students. Teachers could also assess whether students are bored and need more challenging instruction. And you might not necessarily see that unless you're doing the assessments as we do in differentiated instruction. Assessments can come in many different forms, including test scores from the end of the year when you're beginning a new school year, and then you can use scores from tests throughout the school year to assess. You can also use journals. You can also, if you're involved in the teaching the individual children, then you can just talk with them and see what they're getting. Alright, so one very important aspect of differentiated instruction is grouping. So instead of having everyone just in a big group, differentiated instruction uses small groups usually. There shouldn't be any set rules when grouping, just whatever works best for the students. So you shouldn't have a group of students that are always together. There shouldn't be set groups. It should be very flexible and fluid, and you should be able to move people around the groups in order to get a better instruction going in that group. You can have either homogeneous or heterogeneous groups. So homogeneous group is usually students that have the same um, skill level, the same readiness, I guess. And then a heterogeneous group would group everyone together. You have a little bit of everything together in one group. But one very important thing when grouping is that teachers must know their students in order to know how to group them. So, as we just stated, in order for educators to be able to develop content, they must know their students. Um, Educators have to learn their students' readiness, interests, and their learning style. So they have to know kind of what level the student is on, whether they're at a more advanced readiness, or whether they're kind of having trouble with some of the topics and need a little bit of extra help. Um, their interests, they have to know what they're interested in to put them in groups that would be more beneficial. Because if the group is gelling, then they're going to be learning together and it'll create a more positive experience for that student. Um, and teachers can find that out just by talking to them and maybe doing um, a little like quiz or get to know you kind of sheet. They would ask their favorite sport, favorite candy bar, basic questions like that. And then teachers also need to know the kids' learning styles, whether they like to read, whether that's the best way they learn, whether they like to watch a video, an educational video, or whether they're more of a hands-on, like they don't want to see how you do the project, they want to just get down and do it, and that's how they learn best. Um, a variety of reading materials and textbooks should be provided. And this would go with the different readiness levels. So you should have textbooks and reading material for the grade that you're teaching, but then you should also have 1 or 2 grades below and 1 or 2 grades above so that you can cater to whatever that student needs in order to get them to learn. So how information is given and how the students are taught is a very important part of differentiated instruction. And so here are just some ways that you can give out information that you can just incorporate a little bit of differentiated instruction in your classroom. So instructing students in tiers based on readiness is one way. So let's say you're doing an assignment. You would do the assignment in a large group, and then you would break all the students up. Let's say you do 3 tiers. So group 1 would have less of an assignment to do, and you might help that group personally. Group 2 would have a little bit more work to do with the assignment, and then group 3 would have the most work to do and the most advanced. And this way you can teach everyone the same lesson, but you can keep kids from getting bored and you can keep kids from getting passed over, kind of. You can help everyone understand everything. Another thing you could do is to have interactive journals for the students. So this would be individual, personalized per student. Each student would have a journal. You can write down writing prompts for them that apply to their life. For example, saying that you remembered a student talking about their vacation to Mexico and asking them to describe that to you. And that's just a way that you can individualize their education and get them to like writing. You can use manipulatives, which are kind of object lessons, blocks, an abacus, like flashcards, things that can get kids to see it. And you can also do different presentation styles. So those presentation styles would be you can say it, which would be you giving like a lecture to the class or reading a book aloud. You can show it, which would be like writing it on the whiteboard. Or you can do it, which would be like using those manipulatives in an object lesson, doing an experiment, things like that. So the goal of all of this is going to be the product. Um, and products for lessons can be different and shown in different ways based on student readiness. Um, so for example, one student may be more of a visual learner. They're not very good at writing. Um, their product could be a lesson, like a paper, but done in a video format. Um, and that would be just based on student readiness, based on student learning profiles, and based on their preferences. Another one that we have here that we just talked about is the tiered products. So that would be different groups of students with different readinesses having different products. Um, Another one that I thought was kind of fun was a think-tac-toe. So this is what a think-tac-toe board would look like. And this is for a Romeo and Juliet assignment. So students can either choose a row, a column, or a diagonal, and they can do those assignments. And this kind of gives students a way to choose what they want to do, but still having them do kind of all the same general thing in the classroom. Another product that we can do are learning menus. So this just basically gives a student the choice to decide what product they want to give you. You would give them a list of, let's say they could do an essay, a letter, um, a journal assignment. They could make a video or a commercial, or whatever you choose, they can choose from that list. Another one is the RAFT method. So that stands for role, audience, format, topic, and topic profile. So this is what a raft would look like. And you would give students the choice to pick in any of these rows, and they would basically just do what's on this table. So that's going to bring us to the end of our presentation on differentiated instruction. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something, and I hope that you are able to use some of these tools in your own classroom. Thank you!